Welcome to the CigarFati book collection by writer Ito Cruz, today with more than 35 books dedicated to the world of habanos. We're about to dive into a story that sounds like it's straight out of a spy movie. It's about how a symbol of luxury, of pure leisure, becomes a secret weapon. This is the incredible, true story of how the iconic Cuban cigar was used to pass hidden messages and fuel a nation's desperate fight for freedom.
Tobacco is life. It can withstand fire and transform it into something beautiful. This one idea is really the heart of our entire story. It's not just about a plant. It's a perfect metaphor for the Cuban people themselves. How can something that seems so delicate, so fragile, end up carrying the fire of a full-blown revolution? Let's find out. So, our story kicks off in colonial Cuba with a young boy named Mateo Valdez. He's learning the incredibly delicate art of rolling cigars from his father. It's a craft that, on the surface, seems so peaceful, so artistic, but it's tangled up in a very dangerous secret. Now, a torcedor, a master roller like Mateo's father, wasn't just some guy making cigars. No, this was a position of immense honor. And, more importantly, they were keepers of secrets. This respected role gave him the perfect cover to be a crucial part of a revolutionary network, plotting freedom right under the noses of the Spanish authorities. Think about the legacy Sebastian passed down to his son. It was completely dual-sided. He taught Mateo the art of creation, how to roll the perfect cigar, and at the same time the art of destruction, how to fire the perfect shot. These two skills, one for peace and one for war, would soon define Mateo's entire life. And then, the story takes a tragic turn. Sebastian's secret is discovered, and he's publicly executed. It's a brutal, bloody warning to anyone else who dares to dream of a free Cuba. And that single violent moment is what ignites Mateo's destiny, especially when he discovers one final lesson his father left behind for him. Can you just imagine this for a second? Tucked inside the very last cigar his father ever rolled, Mateo finds this message. It's not a goodbye, it's a mission. It's a promise that his father's sacrifice wasn't the end. It was just the seed being planted. All right, let's fast forward a few years. That seed of revolution has erupted into open war. Mateo is a man now, and those two secret arts his father taught him, well, they're about to make him a unique and incredibly deadly weapon for the cause. This is the absolute core of what made Mateo so powerful. The same steady hands, the same patience, the same unbelievable precision needed to create a flawless cigar. All of that is now being channeled into his work as a sharpshooter. He's both an artist and an assassin, which makes him priceless to the revolution. So, who exactly is he fighting with? He joins the Mambises. And this was not your typical army. We're talking about a truly diverse group. Former slaves, wealthy landowners, thinkers, farmers, all united under one flag. They fought a guerrilla war for a free Cuba from the brutal, dense wilderness they called the Managua. In the chaos of this new kind of warfare, Mateo's skills turned him into a legend. He became known as the Ghost of Las Vidas, this phantom marksman who could take out high-value Spanish targets from impossible distances. He sowed fear and total confusion among the colonial forces. But you have to understand, being a sharpshooter carried this immense psychological burden. It's not the hot-blooded chaos of a charge. As his American instructor tells him, it's a cold, calculated personal act. Every single shot is a deliberate decision, a weight that Mateo carries alone in the shadows of the war. Now, Mateo's actions weren't happening in a vacuum. As the rebellion got stronger and stronger, Spain responded. And not with better battlefield tactics, no. They responded with a brutal campaign of terror, aimed directly at the very people the rebels were trying to free. This terror had a name: reconcentration. A Spanish general, Valeriano Weyler, who became known as the Butcher, forced hundreds of thousands of civilians out of their homes and farms and into these disgusting fortified camps. The goal was simple and horrifying: starve the revolution by cutting it off from the people who supported it. The human cost of this was just staggering: 40%. Let that number sink in for a moment. Nearly half of the people forced into these camps died. These weren't camps, they were death traps. Starvation and disease killed hundreds of thousands of civilians, way more than bullets ever could. This wasn't war anymore. It was a humanitarian catastrophe. So, how in the world could the rebels fight back against this kind of strategy? They couldn't win a straight up war, so they relied on a highly sophisticated shadow war. And their most powerful weapon? It was the very symbol of Cuban culture that the Spanish loved to profit from.
So, how did they pull it off? This system was absolutely ingenious. A coded message written on superfine silk paper was carefully rolled up and embedded deep within a cigar's filler. A master torcedor would then finish the roll to perfection. What you had was a message that could move right through Spanish checkpoints, completely undetected. It was pure brilliance and an unbelievable risk, hidden in plain sight.
And you know what? The rebel strategy was working. Spain was exhausted, losing money, losing control. But just when it seemed like victory was finally within their grasp, the whole conflict entered a really complicated new phase. A new global power saw an opportunity on its doorstep and decided to step in. 1898. This was the year everything changed. The American battleship USS Maine explodes in Havana Harbor, giving the U.S. the perfect pretext to declare war on a weak and tired Spain. But look closely at that last point. When the Treaty of Paris is signed to end the war, the Cubans, the very people who had fought and died for their freedom for decades, they weren't even allowed in the room. This quote from a Mombi general just says it all, doesn't it? After decades of sacrifice, the revolutionaries could only stand by and watch as their hard-won victory was co-opted. One colonial power was simply being replaced by another. The war against Spain was finally over, but the fight for true independence had just been stolen from them. In this new control was made official through something called the Platt Amendment. It was basically a clause that the U.S. forced into Cuba's new constitution, and it essentially put the new country on a leash. It gave the United States the right to intervene militarily whenever it felt like it, totally undermining the whole idea of Cuban sovereignty. So, for veterans like Mateo Valdez, the end of the war was incredibly bittersweet. I mean, they had defeated the Spanish Empire, which is an unbelievable achievement. But that dream of a truly free, truly sovereign Cuba, it was still just out of reach. A new, more subtle kind of struggle was just beginning. And that really leaves us with a powerful question to think about. Is true independence a single event, a finish line you cross, or is it more of a continuous process, a fight that each new generation has to take up for themselves? It's something worth considering. If you liked it, if you enjoyed it, if you learned something new, subscribe to the channel because we are just getting started. And remember that you can now enjoy on Amazon Book the complete collection of the writer Edo Cruz, today with more than 35 books dedicated to the world of Habanos.